No, I'm glad that you don't have a big following. No offense.
Oh, no,
It's
it's
being sent
okay.
to a third party. Okay, I have to press OK. Hold on.
Um, okay, actually, that seems to have gone through quite well. Let me just check that it's yes, it's live. Okay, beauty. Okay, so hi everyone. Anyone that might be here, it's on Zoom, so I can't tell if anyone's here or not. So I might just be talking to myself or you, Kristy, but it seems like that's all we do anyway. Um, so today my most awesome guest is the most awesome Kristy. And I've just realized that I got your name wrong on the friggin' advertising thing. I put Kristy Mary, so that's your middle
Yeah,
name.
it is. It's kind of
Oh no.
intentional, actually.
Oh well,
I'm
you
trying to
know
be
who
a
it is.
little
I'll see if I can get
anonymous.
into it. And I'm not the
Yeah.
best design person. But Kristy is from America, which is excellent because she's got one foot in the whole situation with Trump um, and again, it's Trump week, so or it's actually it's not about Trump week, Trump week.
Mm-hmm.
So Christy's here. She's in Australia at the moment, which is why she can join us for this time. And what would you say? You're having a like a extended holiday? Is that what we call
Yes. Yes, it could be called that. You could call it that if you
it? Yeah,
wanted.
yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like a like pretty broad stroke there that we can paint.
Yeah. We'll take that one. Yeah.
And Christy's in Melbourne at the moment too. I believe still. The last time we
Yep.
spoke.
Yep.
Um, okay, well, enough for everyone else. Now it's me and you, mate.
Okay.
You know, it's Trump week, and
Yes.
we were talking a little bit beforehand last week actually about something that might be um, related for you in Trump in terms of some sort of suffering, and you were saying that the idea of the people that are behind Trump was the situation, was the
Uh,
cause of the
I,
suffering, like the mob.
for me,
Yeah,
yeah, it was more just I wouldn't say behind, but more like the amount of attention that Trump gets and the constant sort of like uh I'm I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be offensive, but I just have to go with it. I think
oh,
just
throw it in.
hysteria to me.
Yeah,
It feels like hysteria. I mean, obviously there's a whole camp of people that are kind of followers of his that love him as well, which I
yeah,
also don't belong in that camp. But just the amount of like just this constant blowing up of Trump, like it's like
yeah,
there are other things in the world, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So yeah, I would say that's more where I find myself irritated.
Okay,
Mm.
okay, and if you like on Monday, what we were doing was because the two people that I had on it actually ended up being two. We just brought the idea of Trump into our minds.
Mhm.
The woman Alison, she had no idea about what was going on at all, and that was enough to get us started in that regard. But do you have any other sort of thoughts that we could start with as well? Like, did you watch the whole meeting with Zelensky and
Yes.
yeah, any
Yeah, I did
sort of
watch.
thoughts about that you want to share?
Yeah.
You want to like upset the viewers if there is
I'm
any
gonna be
viewers?
so I'm gonna already tell I've already got a little squeam in my stomach that's like, but you know, I'm just this is so I actually had a very interesting experience watching that where I actually for a moment saw through the eyes of the people that really love him.
Yeah,
And for a moment I saw why they liked him.
yeah,
It didn't last for very long for me, but for a moment I was like, oh, he's doing the kind of strongman thing, you know? He's
yeah,
really coming down hard. And I can see how that would be appealing to some people. For a
yeah,
moment, I could see the appeal of that.
yeah,
And then I pretty quickly flipped to the people who really can't stand him, right? Feel very upset by him.
yeah,
And I kind of saw through their eyes of like the the abusive parent kind of thing. Like, how dare you not thank me? You know, we're here to, you know, you should be grateful for all I've done for you, right?
yeah,
Which is um and very it did feel very like family system kind of abuse sort of thing going on for sure. Um I didn't find, I think especially like my dad isn't like that. So I don't actually get that triggered by Trump himself. I mean, I find him kind of interesting sometimes, but mostly just I find him interesting in the way that he activates people, whether it's pro or anti, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
More than him himself. I don't.
Yeah. Interesting.
Without that, I probably actually wouldn't pay very much attention to him. I think he'd be kind of a
A ball.
boring
Yeah.
billionaire that just runs his mouth all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. I like the tie-in to of I mean I like that you're able to look in through the people's eyes, and I find with self-inquiry too that it's an actual thing that quite often in my mind I'll um like if I'm seeing someone else in my mind, I know in the back of my mind that I'm looking at a reflection of me. And so
Mm,
one sort of tool I'll use is I'll bring that image down onto my body and feel how it is to be in that until it falls in and it becomes me kind of thing. So,
mm,
so that movement between the different sort of stances, I think, is quite interesting. And imagine if they were able to stop each other in the moment and just say, "Whoa, hold on a bit," and then try to look through each other's eyes,
mhm,
in a way, and sort of recognize what they were feeling within themselves, and then be able to recognize what they were feeling with the other person. And I'm sure there's some sort of um, I'm sure there's some sort of therapy of this in this way. Like maybe it's this needs-based therapy that would go down that path. Um,
mhm.
and also the idea that it's sort of family centered. And to me, this is evidence of the problem not really being outside of ourselves, and that okay, it's a little bit closer in terms of it's a family or memory thing within ourselves, and then it might fall back in a little bit more to a sense of something within us that's not right. Or
Mm,
um, when because I did a reaction video to it this morning, and my initial thought when I first saw it was that it was children, like kids
mhm.
sort of having a disagreement about something, and and then when I did the reaction video too, I recognized that, it's like the parents, like my response to it was exactly what you were saying, that squeamishness almost. Although maybe you were talking about something else, but as I
Mhm.
was watching it, I felt this uncomfort and squeamishness, and I could see, it's like I'm looking at my parents or adults arguing, um, and and I don't want to sort of be a part of it, and that's why I want to move away from it. So yeah, interesting, really, really interesting. Um, so my a little bit of excitement about the whole thing. I just want to like settle
Mhm.
down a little bit. And
So
ask you
much
like a
good
good,
stuff in here.
yeah, a good
Yeah.
question to get into it too. Because it sounds to me what you're saying in terms of the thing that is causing some suffering or agitation within you is the like the camps almost that are getting in and behind something, and the
Yeah.
drives maybe for the camps. I don't know. Does that? I mean,
I I would say I've actually spent a good amount of time kind of exploring this a little bit in myself. I, and I feel like I should correct something I said earlier where I feel like, oh, I would just treat him like some boring billionaire. Obviously, he's the president of the US and he's now the second term. Like he should
yeah,
get criticized, and so I just wouldn't criticize him. He's, I don't feel particularly more activated by him than I have other politicians whom I didn't like,
yeah,
right? Actually, I probably hated others more than
yeah,
him.
yeah,
Um, but what I find gets me is um, really the thing I watch is how much he can activate people,
yeah,
again, whether pro or against, in such a way that really actually strengthens him and then strengthens his sort of, you could say, cult, right? His base.
yeah,
And so particularly like watching people who say, I hate him, I hate him, I hate him, I hate him so much. And that actually, he needs that. Like
Yeah,
all cults need a kind of resistance against them to feel a sense of identity
yeah,
around who they
yeah,
are, right? And so you have a whole camp of people over here that are like, I hate him, I hate him, I hate him. And it's actually an essential piece to having him be as strong as he is and watching this whole thing. And I don't like any of his policies really. I mean, there are, again, just like any other president, there might be some decisions that I like and a bunch that I don't.
yeah,
There are some decisions that he's made that I do like, not very many, but like every once in a while that happens. Um, but it's like we're making him worse. We're all saying we don't want this guy, but actually we're feeding him. And that's where I start to feel irritated. Like we all say we don't want this, but in a way we're indulging the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
whole emotional thing in a way that he wants. He
yeah,
actually indulges in that and then he feeds his base with like, look, they hate us because I'm anti-establishment. I mean, he's not, but he
yeah,
gets to use the resistance in his favor to
yeah,
strengthen himself. And I don't want him any stronger.
yeah.
I don't anybody else says, right?
Well,
So,
half of the population, though, in America
well,
does.
that's right.
So he's there
Right.
to
I'm
some
definitely
degree.
not a pro-Trumper, that's for sure. But yeah, totally.
Okay, so what I like, so for the people at home, um, so like I guess I just want to point out that Kristy and I both have done quite a lot of self-inquiry, so we're aware that the surface level of something is not necessarily the place that the suffering's in. And I
Mhm.
hear you saying, Kristy, that the like you seem quite balanced and reasonable about his being a politician and him being the president and him having some good things and some bad things, and none of that is seems to be any part of your suffering. You seem to be quite level-headed and emotionally okay with what is happening, and yet that you can and that you
I
can
mean, I
say,
still,
hey,
yeah.
you can
I,
say, hey,
I,
I don't want this and I don't want
uh-huh,
that.
uh-huh,
I'm not saying that you're going along with things, but you're not
right.
responding from a fear based or a
Yeah.
really high emotion based with these types of things. You could still go out and protest. Probably you still voted against him, but there's
Hmm.
I guess the point I'm trying to make for people is that we're like investigating this in a particular way because we're like, okay, there's no actual suffering in
Yeah,
that. It
right.
mightn't be the thing that you want.
Hmm.
My wife says it the best. She's like, if there's chocolate and there's vanilla, and I don't really like vanilla, then I'm going to go for the chocolate every time. But if there's no chocolate, she's not going to suffer, because of it. She's not going
Hmm.
to make a big story about it. And
Hmm.
um, so I guess I'm looking for the point where we can jump off into self-inquiry here. And and then I recognize as well what you're saying about the idea of him needing not only the people that are behind him, but also the resistance to him. He needs that point of separation in order to be the thing that he wants to be and to manipulate that in some way. Um, so I'm wondering, like that came up a little bit this morning too, actually, in the this um, reaction video I did in that it came up as Trump and Zelensky on one side, and that one was a bully to the other, and that actually they needed each other in a way in order for that whole situation to occur, and
Hmm.
and that in a way that the separation was being validated from one side as well as the other. Although maybe that's a harder sort of concept to grasp, but what comes for you? Like, I'm not trying to intellectualize this. I'm just trying to find that place of jumping
Yeah.
for
Just the
us.
entry point, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And maybe I'll just start with him myself, if that's okay.
Hmm.
Uh, so what's coming for me is it's not so intellectual. It's that tide of emotion. It's coming up like
Hmm.
this, like against something,
Hmm.
um, um, in resistance to something. So I feel like I'm I'm seeing it in my mind as a wave come up and it's in opposition to something else, and I'm fully on one side of something rising up to meet this other thing. And if I was to sort of look at the and then there's the emotion that comes with it, there's that sort of sense of justification and rage that's coming against something else. And for me, that's, I'd say, where the suffering is in this regard.
Mhm.
Um, so what about you? Do you like, does it come for you that you step into, the hysteria? Is that hysteria here for you, or how do you start this?
Yeah, I almost, it's funny. I actually, gosh, the conditioning already. It's just like I see you doing that with making that movement and saying this wave, and I actually was seeing like ocean waves, but like a red one and a blue one, and they're
Yeah,
always crashing against each other, and there's so much drama. There's
yeah,
always so much drama, and um
yeah,
and there's actually uh I feel like just down my center line here, like core, uh yeah, like it's like a frustration, sadness, uh almost like some helplessness.
yeah.
Like like
Is it
yeah.
whereabouts in the
Mm.
body is it, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, just that center line, like right, like I'd say it starts around, although now I'm noticing all the way up here as well. It's
Yeah.
around my
So that's the
under my
solar plexus
jaw,
and
my
then a bit into the
throat.
throat.
Yeah, all the way down.
Okay, so it's all the
I'd
way.
say to like belly button area. Yeah. Yeah, just this kind of core. Um,
Can I ask
yeah.
where the crashing is? Is that happening as the image in your mind? And then
Yeah,
where
that
would,
was
like, whereabouts is that in the scheme of things? Is that up in the, do you know, I'm seeing like this line,
yeah, it kind of
the
went
thing
towards where
happening.
your hands, because I see your hands, so it sort of went to your hands. But
I'm just curious, that's all.
yeah, no, it's up in front, but interestingly, from at least from memory, it's almost actually a little bit more to the left, like front left over here.
Yeah.
Um, I have to kind of pull it back up. It sort of like came in and then was sort of gone, but um yeah. And it's funny because I mean they crash against each other, but there's never no real progress that ever happens. It's not like one really ever kind of they're always just doing this,
Yeah.
and the line more or less stays roughly in the same place,
Yeah.
you know. But there's so much smashing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And to me, again, that this is the reason I don't do a normal podcast is because these two sides, they might like tip a little bit more one side or the other, but there's no sort of satisfaction or resolution within them. And
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it sounds to me like that's sort of the symbol that you're um okay, so the question is though, where is the suffering? Is it in the sensation itself somewhere, or does it come up as something within the mind? And
That's it. Yeah. I'd say I feel it like now a little bit more, it's shifted, so a little bit more like chest and then actually down into my arms. And there's still a sense of sad, yeah, it's like that frustrated, um, like the words that come are like, how long are we gonna do this for?
yeah,
Like nothing's really changing,
yeah,
and we're just doing this. And yeah, it's over here to the left. Yeah, like powerlessness.
So what's happening for me is I'm like, okay, I'm feeling this. It's sort of a big space that's happening in my chest at the moment, and I'm sort of centered there, I would say. But then as I listen to you, I hear and I feel this sort of movement up and into the mind to try and, it's that duality type of thing, that hope and despair that happens and the movement upwards to try and have something occur. Um, and it's a little bit light because there's a really strong piece that's right here in the middle of the chest and that seems enormous compared to this movement upwards into these. And I'm kind of seeing this blue and red waves, that are happening up into the mind as well. So I'm actually having to push myself up there a little bit. Um, and and the question that was coming for me is, what am I expecting to happen up in the mind in that regard? And then and then if I see that one wave, the red wave, wins out, and then all of the ocean is red and it's flat and it seems a bit lifeless and one-sided, or like it's calm, but it's a different form of calm. It's not the same calm as the feeling in the middle of the chest.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I come back up to this two images and I let the blue side overcome, and then all the ocean's blue, and it's monotone and one dimensional and and um and flat and and then sort of it resets itself again, and I see that that there's a joy actually in that movement of the red and the blue together, and um yeah, and I can feel and I can, and then it turns a little bit because I was seeing it as a profile, and I can be that red side fully and experience that sort of anger and but it's got a different tone to it now. It's not a matter of life or death. I can, it's like a joy actually. Hmm. I can be the wave that's crashing and overcome the blue wave because I know it's not serious. I know that without the blue wave, um, hmm, that actually there's a beauty there, is really what I want to say. And in this moment, I feel okay to be both sides because I'm all sides, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does.
And what's happening for you?
Yeah, I noticed myself just sort of settling as you were talking, just getting quieter and more a little more relaxed, a little more calm.
What
And
about if you? Oh, no, sorry, man. Keep
it's
going.
okay. Uh and there's kind of two things that come in, like sort of one is the memory of uh actually Australian First Nations guy who's a scholar down here who talks about um, and an author who talks about like the importance of letting everybody speak and hearing everybody. That was one thing that came in. And then this other piece that's a little bit more present now is this sense of like, is there something other than a wave? Can we maybe even, is there something else entirely
Mm.
that we could do instead of instead of waves crashing or like just some alternative. And I'm kind of giving it words. I'd say it almost feels more like it's a little more sensory than that. it's more this sense of although it's not totally open, but there's just this sense of like these kind of open spaces,
Yeah.
like just around me. And again, it's not totally open, but there's like these open, and I keep wanting, like I keep thinking of a fertile like field or something. Like what if it was a field? What if it wasn't waves? What if it was a field? What
Yeah.
about that? You know, could we have a field instead? Could we have a meadow? Could we have a, you know, a garden or some, you know?
Yeah. Does that come into
Yeah.
mind? Like, does that imagery come in as something? I see like a flower and the bee.
Yeah,
And
or even just like what would it be like if there wasn't a binary and we were actually all just working together to cultivate
mm,
something?
mm,
That's just honestly just what comes in very spontaneously right now.
yeah,
But there's more that sense of like fertile possibility or like alternatives that we just haven't imagined yet.
yeah,
Is one way. But again, like I'm giving it words, but it feels like actual little spaces. Like there's one right here and there's like one right here.
yeah, 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 yeah. I'm
Yeah.
with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay, so I mean, part of me wants to sort of slip back into that duality again. Not on purpose, but as a curiosity of like, okay, I'm feeling this and I'm imagining this over here, or there's a symbol of my feeling in my mind. But what happens if I come back out and step over into this waves again? You know, what's the difference that happens in the body here, just as an experiment? But for me, that's coming back in as coming back to the meeting of Trump and Zelensky, and I'm watching the image of Trump speaking, and I'm sort of seeing it just in um, a non-serious way. Um, I'm seeing it like a play almost, that
Mhm.
there's that little sparkle that I can see in Trump that he knows that it's a play, but he's engaged in the character, and then Zelensky comes in and he's the same, that he's got that little sparkle of knowing that this is just a play and they can still go through their emotions together and and have that drama, but they recognize that it's on a stage, it's
Mhm.
on a
Mhm.
so then it doesn't really matter, they can hug at the end or the play can go however the way it wants to go. But again, that seriousness is not there in this moment for me. Um, um, so it's interesting to me because I think what you're saying is that you want something else, right? In terms of the imagery, you want something else. Um, and this is something my wife and I we have that's quite different from us. My wife is very determined and she knows exactly what she wants and exactly what she doesn't want. She's really in touch with her body, I would say, in that she's like, oh, someone says something and she's like, no, that doesn't feel good, or I'm not going to put my energy there because I want it to be here. She's very like this. And I'm a lot more that, just, I can see, I like to see if I can find the thing within what's here already, where she likes to direct and kind of move things. And I don't think either way is good or bad. I think it's just the different sort of perspectives, and it's nice that we can be together and allow each other and remind each
Mhm.
other at times too to to go the other way, sort of thing. Um, and I have that feeling a little bit here with you at the moment. Um, Mm. Like, does it come in as a I can personally, I can just see it here. I can just see it now. I'm really good. I don't feel any animosity or suffering or anything at all, you know.
Yeah.
So quite, I'm quite okay in that moment. But I'm curious to know, if this has got any more sort of legs in it within you, and
I
with me as well.
I definitely feel when you're talking about remembering the meeting, pulling that up, there's just some part of me that's just like laughing at it.
Mm.
Just laughing at just I mean, I don't know. There's so much opportunity for speculation about that, but even just like looking at it, I just want to laugh at them. And I'm like, can we just yeah, why do we keep giving these people so much attention and so much power? Like they're just so
Yeah.
expletives. I could use lots of expletives here, right? But like, you know, like they're just not the best human beings that we've got. You know, we've got billions of people here. Why are we giving so much power and so much attention and so much? And obviously, I'm being somewhat like impractical. We have to give them a lot of attention because we gave them all this power. So now we have this problem. But it's like, I just want to laugh at them, you know? Like
Yeah.
the whole thing. I'm just like, oh my God, you know, and you
Just
guys did this.
ridiculous.
Yeah, right. Just
So,
and just it's like ridiculous. And also I just want to laugh. I really like just like feeling that joy you're talking about. Like it just feels like almost cosmic jokey kind of, you know, you're like, God,
mm.
so, so ridiculous and so hilarious in a way. I mean, yeah. So
Does that extend to the camps? Does that
yeah,
extend to
oh,
the camps?
good question.
Um,
Oh, no. I still feel kind of annoyed by them.
yeah, yeah.
It did for like it's definitely a little bit more to them. Yeah.
What would you say to them? Like if you are
Oh,
standing up there in the middle of it all, like if you were up on that pulpit and you could say something to the group of people, maybe they're all in red,
oh,
maybe they're all in blue, or maybe there's
oh.
a nation. What would you want to? And you can, if you need to have a swear, okay?
Yeah. Okay, that's good. I won't get bleeped. Um,
Oh.
it's just so stupid. I don't know. I think that's really it. It doesn't feel like there's much to say, but just feels really stupid. There's so many other things. If again, I actually like I say that and then I feel those like possibilities again. Like there's so many other games we could play. There's so many other like configurations of ways of relating around
Yeah.
this and with each other. There's so many other choices and so many other options. And we just keep doing this like football, like political Super Bowl team sports thing where we like go fight the other team. And we've been doing that for so long and it's just boring at this
Okay. Okay.
point.
So change that image a little bit though, right? So
Uh-huh.
change it so that the red team's on the left side and the blue team's on the right side, and they're about to have engage in this war.
Hmm.
Basically, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So so because I mean, okay, I guess I'll say this for the people at home, is that we're not separate from this, within ourselves. We're not
Hmm.
separate. The conflicts that happen outside of us and that we see are also happening within us. And it might be on some completely different level or completely different way, but just on the simplest term, I know that there's a part of me that wants to do this and there's a part of me that wants to do that. And that's reflected through this conflict. So in a way, we're sort of talking to ourselves. And really, that's what I mean by saying that this is not really about Trump. And I'm not saying this to you, Kristy. I'm saying this to the general people that might be watching this, um, is that at least on some level there's a part about ourselves that's suffering, or that's the cause
Mhm.
of suffering, seemingly. And in some ways, I'll reiterate this, in some ways we don't have so much of an opinion or a capacity to do anything to the outside world. Like, again, I don't know Trump. I can't say, hey man, feel what's
Mhm.
going on in your body next time. Well, Zelensky, you should have just knocked him out. You
They
could have just
definitely don't
knocked
do
him out,
that,
and
yeah.
and what I can do is I can look within myself and find that, that part and that role. And
Mhm.
so that's, I guess, my
Mhm.
my invitation to us both in the moment is to oh, maybe it's just now about engaging that part that would say something to this left and right side.
Mhm.
And I don't know. What would you say? Like, how would you get them to communicate, or how would you get them to see that they're looking at each other in that moment? And then,
Mhm.
firstly, what's the feeling of the image of that, of like looking out over the left and the blue and the right, or however it is in your mind, and that feeling of division? And are you
Mhm.
still feeling that feeling of frustration about them wanting to fight, or I don't know.
Um, no, so much. I'd say it feels like it's there's two things. But mostly the main thing, and I can just feel it kind of like off to my right side actually. It's kind of interesting. Um, a sort of like pulling away, and I get this visual of like turning around and being like, I don't, this is not the game I want to play. Like I'm just not interested,
Yeah,
really. Um, and just like being like, I'm just gonna walk away and go do something else,
yeah.
actually.
Does that come through in the mind? Do you get to see what else you would do?
I do actually, yeah.
What,
Um,
can you tell me about that?
it's interesting that it's like my right side I usually experience as like more masculine. And so it's interesting that it's kind of like it feels like a like there's a gosh, words are terrible. Hey. Like there feels like there's a like kind of part sort of little ball of awareness that is like pulling out and back and coming out this way and just
Yeah,
kind of exiting like that.
yeah,
If the two sides are in front, it's like going out that way. Um, and I do actually it's things I've been dreaming about doing for years. Because I'm still, it's not like I don't, it's not like I want to ignore this.
yeah.
I just want to um, relate to it differently.
Yes,
Like
so beautiful.
I'm not interested in like joining one of the teams,
Yeah,
like really. Um, I'm um, and that includes like team pro or anti-Trump,
yeah,
but like more of this like so I get some different images but mostly it's a sense of like something that's more like I'm trying to think of words that maybe are a little easier for people to identify, but like a systems theory kind of like how are all these different pieces relating to each other? Like what is their way of relating, like an ecosystem, like the ecology of it, right? As opposed to being like, I'm going to jump into one of these parts and so strongly identify with it that I'm going to
yeah.
war with anybody that doesn't join my camp, like that kind of. And so to me it really feels like pulling out back, going out this way, and over here there's like a group of people sitting in a circle, and like we're sitting outside, um and the relationship is with the earth first, and then it's sort of like, okay, we've got this thing, these dynamics happening with people, like what is that, right? And just more curiosity and kind of like, because you can't ignore it. We all live together on this planet. We kind of have to be with each other. But yeah, it feels like just a more curious, playful, interesting, uh, productive, like
Yeah.
way of engaging with it than
Yeah. Yeah, like holistic as well. I see
yeah,
what you're
holistic.
saying.
Right. That's a good word.
It's coming to me as like, this doesn't go anywhere. It's just this
Yeah,
backwards and forwards that never goes anywhere.
right.
And and that and that we like invest this kind of hope in one side. And even if you, I mean, even to the point of why do I like this? You know,
Mm-hmm.
why would I pick this side,
Mm.
the other
Mm-hmm.
side? It doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
kind of doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I don't even have a choice. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a choice of picking this team because I live in this place. Or do you know, there's
Mm-hmm.
so many sort of things that have the possibility of getting you to be able to take that step back and go, okay, I've
Mm-hmm.
engaged in this in a long enough time, and now I'm just going to be over here. And I like the imagery that you're talking about too, in terms of it seemed a bit more dimensional rather than
Mm-hmm.
two-dimensional, like only having the choice of one side or the other, and that they can swap at any time, and it doesn't, you know, there's a blindness to that too, that there's a blindness to the whole situation almost in some regards. Whereas what you're talking about seems to be um, um, and you were talking earlier, I think this is like just an extension of that, about there being a gap over here and a gap over here, and a
Mm-hmm.
bit more feeling dimensional, and it's also like a present thing too, because I can hear the intellect come over the top going, well, how do we get into this position? That old left and right intellect trying to work things out rather than just being present and in the moment and making the choices here, for here, with here, rather than for the imagination of tomorrow and the sides and you know, the imagination. All of that intellectual stuff is
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
imagination. It's like what happened in the past just brought forward, and there's a mechanicalness to it. And it sounds to me like you're talking about fatigue as well. There's a massive fatigue in the effort that's needed for this, whereas here it's a joy, and I can still hear my mind going, "Well, forget we get there.
Totally.
I want to be there too. How do I get
I need a
there? Why
plan.
are
Give me a
you
plan.
there? Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I want to be there. It's like it's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's from that place,
Mm,
I mean, there's a few like subtle things that are happening for me, but okay, I'll name two of them. One is like from that position, like so like back up over here, like from that alternative place,
yeah,
Trump's fascinating to me.
yeah,
Very interesting in terms of the way that I don't actually think people are like, oh, he's a brilliant con man. I don't think he's actually that smart. I think he's really like, he's smart the way like a 6-year old who's really good at manipulating is really smart, right? Like it's not actually that brilliant, but it's really good. Like he knows what's reliable as far as what he can do to get reactions, right? And he's good at doing that. He's good at that, right? And so it's to me, it's like from that perspective, it's fascinating watching all the pieces interact with each other, including him. And when I say that, I notice another, like this little part it comes up that's like, you're offending so many people right now. And make sure that you say that you don't like him, right? Like, like I have to like give that disclaimer because there is a part of me that's scared that I'm coming off as like pro-Trump or something. I'm
Yeah.
not pro-Trump. I've never put a line with any
Yeah. You're like
Republican really,
sort of
but
justifying in a way. Um,
yeah. So it's
so,
that conditioning is there, you know?
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got a little bit of time. I think we can have a quick look at that. But I just wanted
Okay.
to ask you, you were saying there was two things before.
That was it too. I'd
That
say
was the second one,
the
huh?
fascination and like
Yeah.
the tracking of all the different pieces,
Yeah.
and then the part that's like, make sure you say that you hate him.
Yeah. 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 I'm with you. I'm glad that I just wanted to make sure that we hit that second point. Um, okay, so there's something here that is keeping us because I definitely resonate with this, maybe in a tiny different way in terms of the thing, you know. Um, so it's like it's a duality thing. In some way, you are Trump. You're not an anti-Trumper. In some way, if you can see a fascination in Trump, you could easily be put in over in that camp.
Hmm.
Um, so what happens when you put yourself over in that camp? You know, what happens if you do, do you hold on, it's
That's a good
perfect.
one. That's so
Perfect.
good.
Yes.
That's
It's
awesome. That's
it's
such a good
perfect.
idea. Oh my God, that's so
What
good.
happens when you
That's
pick up
so
the red hat,
good.
you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a
Ooh,
freedom
I
in being
love
able
it.
to do
Oh,
that.
juicy, juicy, juicy.
Um,
That was great. Yeah, what if I'm a pro-Trumper? Oh, I already can hear my mother disowning me. She's screaming at the top of her lungs. She's
yeah.
losing her mind. Ah. Okay, so here, so yeah, there is some discomfort. It's interesting, right? Like I just stood up taller and I'm just like, yeah, what if I'm a pro-Trumper? There's a part of me that's like d like can't fully believe that because I'm not. But I mean, there's certain things that he's done, actually several things he's done recently that I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like that's sincere for me. I hate that stuff. Um, but what if I were to say something like there are some decisions that he's made that it's not many, but there's a few that I'm really glad he made them. Like
Yeah.
I personally am really glad that he's ending the war between Russia and Ukraine. I'm really glad about that.
Yeah.
Like, do I think he's doing it for the right reasons? Probably not, but whatever. The war is ending. That's good.
Yeah.
To me, war is bad. End the
Yeah.
wars. So, like, if I stand by that and say, yeah, actually, I think it's really good. I do feel like I can feel like my whole body lighting up a little bit with some fear,
Yeah.
actually, for saying that publicly on live stream.
Yes, you're very live right now.
Right?
There might only be
Yeah. I
half a
can't like
person
save
watching.
myself from
You
this.
can always like edit this out afterwards.
I
Not,
know.
you're
But
live in this
that's
particular moment.
that's fascinating. I want to stay with that for a second, right?
Mm,
Like how
mm,
scary it is to say if you're primarily your social network is like left progressive,
yeah.
and then you to say, actually, I like that he did that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
So,
naughty. You're
okay.
so bad. I'm so bad right now.
Yeah. 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 For me, it comes as two parts. There's that first bit of it actually acknowledging, and the acknowledgement of whatever the decision was that he made. So I'm just letting that be here, like, oh, okay, that was a good thing for me in this moment, regardless of anything else. And so I'm feeling that a little bit, I'm feeling the relief of that. And um, I'm a little bit trying to, because there's something in the back here about sort of me that's just a little bit aside to this. Um, but it's in the same vein. Oh, I'm a bad person. There's like a,
Hmm.
a thing of that. Um,
Hmm.
and then it comes in the external reactions come in.
Mhm.
And I feel like in the body, I almost want to protect that feeling, that sensation. If that makes any
Mhm.
sense. What about you? How's your feeling? How's your sensation?
Yeah. I got tight in the shoulders and actually feeling like it's not super strong, but some fear in my like stomach. That's actually fairly light. Interestingly, I think it's more in my arms and my hands. I
Yeah.
kind of uh it's not super strong. It's actually fairly subtle, but it's definitely there of like, yeah, um, a tingly kind of fear. It's
Okay,
like,
let's stay here a
oh,
bit together
yeah,
with that, I reckon. And
yeah,
let's see if it something comes, because I'm feeling that a little bit too. It's almost
yeah.
like the top half, the sense of the personality of me is afraid, or I don't know how to explain it. So the general question in this regard is what would this say about me? What would the other people think about me in this moment? Well, that's what's coming for me anyway.
Mm, yeah.
Oh, oh,
Uh, what's
that
gonna,
hysteria comes now as a response, like you're gonna what? You done what?
yeah,
Said what? And there's a
yeah.
shrieking from that a little bit, and
Uh,
have you lost your mind? But then it's
uh,
funny because in the image I see that the hysteria that they have is that they've lost their mind almost. I feel quite calm about
mhm,
the hey, the end of the war is a good thing, however that ends. Do you know what I mean? Like the decision
mhm,
I've made is quite stable,
mhm.
whereas the reaction to it is
Yeah.
mm,
I'm getting that my own versions of that as well.
yeah,
Yeah, very strong, aggressive,
yeah,
like similar, like seeing my family and yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like how does it flow in your mind? Where does it go to? Maybe you can push me along a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm.
Hmm.
I mean, sorry, it just came through for me in that I came back to the waves, right? Being in the
Uh-huh.
waves, and
Uh-huh.
actually the blue wave, and then the red wave was like towering up over me and getting ready to smash me into smithereens, and and once that image came in, then it settled back down into the belly, and I could still have that particular point of view, and the fear wasn't there as much. Um,
Mhm.
it didn't click over into the funniness of it or the joy of it. There was still the
Mhm.
seriousness of the red wave pummeling me, even though it's the opposite, but the red wave pummeling me and destroying me. Um, but the meat, how to explain it, but yeah, it's interesting. It's like there's more there's more solidity or truth in the sensation of me than there is in the different forms of that. I'm like
Mhm.
maybe I'm going somewhere which is a bit quacky. I should maybe change the hats. Hold on.
I love that MAGA hat. That's
Ah,
so great.
I made it yesterday. Hold on
I
a
think
minute.
that's alleviating. Yeah.
We're in the quacky. It's the quacky territory now. So yeah, for whatever reason, it's saying that the sensation is of me is more me than the thought of me being one side or the other, which is interesting.
Right.
Ben Quacky, hence the
Yeah.
hat. Okay.
How's that quacky exactly? What's
How is it?
mm. Yeah, how's it quacky? I think maybe I don't
Do you know
follow.
what the quack is someone that, like a quack doctor, someone that thinks they know what they're talking about, doesn't really know what they're talking about. Someone that the rest of the world
Um,
thinks is selling snake oil. Um,
it's right. So I do know that, but so how is what you just said quacky? Because you don't know
oh,
what I'm
well,
saying.
what did I say though? I said that the sensation that I'm
Sensation. Yeah.
experiencing of me is more solid than the
Uh-huh.
thought of me that comes up into the mind.
Uh-huh.
And that
I
even
see.
though there's a fear in it of taking one side than the other,
Mhm.
that the sensation of me can weather it all because it doesn't end. It
Mm.
doesn't end with whichever side I take or whatever
Mhm.
happens up here. So really what I'm saying is that I am the sensation before I am the thought of Luke or whatever. Because the
Mhm.
sensation of me is not, it's got nothing to do with Luke in a way.
Mhm.
But that's definitely a funky thing to
That's
say.
the quacky. Ah, I
Yeah.
see. Okay, right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. Going
And I'm
into
okay with that, but I
yeah,
understand the
good,
rest of
good,
the world
good.
might not be okay. But hey, where are you?
All right.
What's happening for
That's
you?
that
Let's
sounds
get back to
great.
the
I'm on
known.
board with the quack.
Yeah,
Um,
anyone that does self-inquiry ends up
you gotta
there.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for
takes you
sure.
there. It's
Well,
hard for
how's
me to get too like worked up around my fear of offending anti-Trumpers because your MAGA hat is like just the best thing I've ever seen. I just keep looking at it and wanting to laugh.
yeah, I got the little ducky going out there as well. Did you
Oh,
notice
oh,
that?
very good. The ducks are everywhere. It's like find the ducks. I like it. Yeah.
How do you feel being on board with Trump?
Yeah, I'm a pro-Trumper now. Wow. I could just
Hey, that's gonna be the I'm gonna cut that part. That's gonna be the start of this, that's gonna be the advertisement for this whole thing.
Christy's a
I'm gonna
pro-Trumper.
post it on your Facebook wall and
You
all your
should.
friends are gonna see it. I'm gonna like Photoshop
They're
a
gonna
MAGA hat
disown
onto your
me.
head.
I know, I know, I know. I mean, it's hard to, it's like I get a little bit, it's like I feel the fear a little bit, but it's just not that strong because the truth is I know that I'm not. And so it's like,
Yeah.
maybe if I genuinely believe that more, but I'm just like, yeah, I don't like him. But, but it is interesting saying things like, yeah, actually, I think the things that I could say that I think would offend more people, I do feel like more fear around those. I haven't said them, but I could. And that's
What-
where I feel more the fear of like, what could I say? I mean, mostly, well, yeah, I'm like restraining myself a little bit. I could say this, like I actually had to like feel some like real grief around watching people who were decided to not say anything really political, had no political courage for the last 4 years, despite really disturbing things that happened, which we all know about. Totally silent because their camp was in charge. And then it flips over to Trump, and suddenly everyone is conveniently politically courageous and posting all over the place. Like that actually really broke my heart because it was like, it's about the camps. And that's the pain for me. That's the suffering. It's like, we're not in this for each other. We're not in this for something better. We're in this for our egos and for winning the fucking political Super Bowl, you
So
know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, interesting.
And that's where I say that and I'm like, oh, like I feel that in my stomach a little bit, like, oh, I just said that live stream.
But it's like, what's the fear there?
Mm,
I mean, it seems that that happens all the time, where we
yeah.
think that people are being selfless, but they're actually just being selfish. I know that within myself, when I recognize that within myself, that it feels like a big slap across the face, and I'm reminded again that like it was such a strong slap in the face with a big wet fish. That was how I described it.
Mm,
This realization that every time I wanted to help someone, I was actually wanting to help myself.
mm,
I was getting
yeah,
something else out of it. And
yeah.
and even though it mightn't be full, it might be, like 90-10. There was an
Hmm.
element of selfishness in all of my actions.
Uh,
What a
yeah, and that's right.
horrible
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
seemingly.
Seemingly, right.
Seemingly.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like is I don't even know if that's what's upsetting for me. I think it's more what's upsetting is actually like if we all knew that's what we were doing, maybe I'd actually feel better.
Hmm.
But I feel more upset that people are so convinced that they're the good guys. We're
Yeah.
all the good guys,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm watching this and I'm like, we're not the good guys.
No.
Like on it almost any of the levels that we think that we're the good guys. And
Yeah.
that's where it's like, like it feels like the same realization that you had, what you just described, but just like on a collective level,
Yeah.
right? Like, this whole time I thought I was some great, I was really trying to help other people when really it was about myself. And
Yeah.
it feels like just on a bigger level,
Yeah.
realizing like I thought we were all in this for the greater good, but
Yeah.
actually, I don't think we are.
What's the feeling of that?
I mean, I think I more what I'm feeling right now is the fear of having said it.
Is that because of something outside, or is that because of the recognition that now you know about yourself almost? That's just what's coming for me. Do you know what I mean? Like now that you
Yeah.
can't, now the thing's out on the table, there's no way that it can be put back in. And
Yep.
even though it might be for this external thing, which means all of our friends and our family and the government
Yeah.
and
Yep.
even the life, man, even the life itself, the
Uh-huh.
that even though it all works together, it's a symphony of togetherness. There's still this element of, the strongest will prevail. And do you know what I'm sort of saying? That
Yeah, I see. Like
that-
even within nature, you mean like that
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
necessarily this what's the word? I keep wanting a word, but I can't get it right now.
benevolent.
Benevolent, there's a different one, but for whatever reason I can't get it. But yeah, right. That is, yeah.
For me, it comes like I recognize that this is just kind of this one station. It's an important one because it makes us then
Yeah.
turn in and go, well, okay, that we're completely selfish in a way, right? In
Hmm.
a way, we're completely selfish,
Hmm.
but it allows
Hmm.
us now the opportunity of going, hey, this sense of self, this thing that I think I am,
Uh-huh.
um, in this assumption, right? It
Uh-huh.
turns us in and goes, well, what is this thing that I'm actually calling myself? And what's the experience of this? And
Hmm.
and through that, actually, it comes out the other side that, the thing I thought was happening is still happening.
Mm.
A little bit talking to myself there. And I'll take
Uh-huh.
that. I'll just take that back on. Just got
Yes.
little bits, little bits for myself. I can
Yeah.
be selfish in those moments and say, aha, there's something else.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah, right.
like it's a terrible, what a horrible feeling, recognizing that all the things that we do are selfish,
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Yeah,
mostly.
like there's I think where the sadness comes in for me, it's like, right, it is. because I am implicated in that. Like these are all my like my whole family and my friends and all my friends that are posting on Facebook and everything. It's like it's all of us and I'm friends with and connected with all these people. So even if I were to somehow pretend I'm better than that, I'm still implicated just by virtue of like this is my community, like this is me,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's painful to see that. And then really, I think the thing that comes up, the belief that comes up is the belief of like, maybe this would be good if it all burned to the ground
Yeah.
because it's so not
Yeah. Yeah.
something I'm proud to be a part of.
Yeah.
And that feels sad, right? Like there's a sadness of like a wow, we're a lot less noble than I was telling myself.
Yeah.
Even more than I thought. I already knew we weren't as noble as I used to think. But I just got taken down another big notch. And
Another.
it's like, ah,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's just like a, what do you do with that? Oh, it's just sad. Like,
Just be sad.
yeah, right.
Let's be sad.
Yeah. What is that? Does that list anything for you?
Oh, well, I slapped myself in the face with this like a little while ago. So for me,
Hmm.
it was just devastating, absolutely devastating,
Hmm.
because it puts everything else that's happened into light,
Hmm.
and everything comes full force, because you kind of think that, oh, there's these times when the ego comes in, and I'm like, and it's just these
Hmm.
little times, and maybe we can admit to some of it, and but
Hmm.
the depth of it is enormous,
Hmm.
and the feeling of it is enormous, and the repercussions of it is enormous, but it's not easy, but it's like if you stay there and just keep going, then like everything in self-inquiry, it
Hmm.
passes and becomes something else.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just that the depth of it and the disgustingness.
Mhm.
To me, I described it for such a long time as being hit in the face with like a wet fish, like doo across the face, where you got the slime and the weight of the fish, and you're like, oh fuck.
Stinks. Yeah.
God, all the
Yeah.
worst that it could be, it is. But
Yeah.
but there, but
Yeah.
it's not exactly right to say it, but you know it. I know that you know it because
Yeah.
and we all know it because we've all been through that.
Hmm.
Those in whatever
Hmm.
way we could, we've come through the other side of whatever badness is here, and
Yeah.
and it's just one of these sides up here. All we're
Hmm.
talking about is one of these sides up here.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
just that the wave is like really, really big. It's beyond
Yeah.
our comprehension. And hey, the world's going to end. I mean, the intellect kicks in and goes, the world's going to end anyway. Everything that we think that we are, it's going to go. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
inevitable.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually affect, I mean, it might come in as an insight that affects it, that drops it out, but the intellectual understanding of it doesn't take away from the loss and the grief. And I
Hmm.
wouldn't, I
Hmm.
know that it's not pleasant at all. I'm thankful that I don't feel that so much in the moment, but I've been
Hmm.
through it for sure, and I know
Yeah.
I know what you're sort of saying, and mm, there's like a little sadness here for humanity, actually, in that at some point that everyone has to have that insight, and and I mean, we see it. The interesting thing, I think, is that all of this is here. We all know it already.
Hmm.
It's not, it's like the revelation of it is a surprise, but then it comes in like, oh shit, I've known this all the time.
Hmm.
I've known the depth of it all the time. So it's
Hmm.
not, I don't know. I'm waffling a bit now. I could put the hat back on, but
Pizza
how's your
mug.
feeling though? Is
Pizza
your
mug.
we'll end with the mad. I
Yeah.
think. How's your feeling about it all? I mean, we don't always end up in the nicest place, but
No, sometimes you got to stay there. Yeah. Uh, not, yeah, like it's not especially strong at the moment because I've been feeling it and like kind of dipping into it for a few weeks now, really since Trump came into office and everybody suddenly was so politically engaged. And I was like, wow, wow, okay. Um, there's something about like there's a like a heaviness and there is a sadness because there's with the sadness, like when I feel that, it's like, yeah, I feel sad because I actually like love humanity and I want us to thrive. Yeah, I feel that. Like that's, yeah. And I want us to thrive. And it's so painful to watch us act like this
mm,
and be like,
yeah,
like, oh,
what the fuck are we doing?
yeah. Like it just like we're so far away, it feels like from that.
Mm,
And just the sadness is because I want us to not live like this anymore. Like that's really where it is for me. And and like what comes when I say that is like, and just like with yourself, you have to be willing to see the ugliness as much as you see the beauty.
mm,
You have to see the whole thing. You can't just choose to see the nicer parts, parts that make you feel optimistic or motivated. You have to see the full, like what we really are in our fullness. And
yeah,
people say in our fullness or wholeness, people like to use these like nice words, but what they really, if we're being honest about what that means, it means the really disturbing parts, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
And this is it, where it's like, yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, there's a like grief, the sadness, and like, yeah, because you got to see the whole thing.
Yep, yep. I feel lucky enough that I just feel gratitude at the moment, actually. In
Yeah.
the belly, it's really nice.
That's
I'm sorry
great.
for what you're feeling. Understand it. I just feel this gratitude in the belly, right in the
That's
fold
great.
of the
Yeah, you
belly
don't
at
want
the
to get
moment.
over
It's
here.
just
Don't come over
it's
into this.
like do, 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 do. Thank you, thank you. How cool is life? Thank you. It's just going like that.
Totally.
But I know it's going to end, and I know I'll feel the grief again. And in a
Mm,
way, in a way, the grief and the gratitude, there's actually like I love the grief as much as I love the gratitude. So not always, and I definitely know what you're experiencing at the moment. Um, I want us to do good too.
mhm.
I want us to do good too. But let's see. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, mate.
Yeah, that seems like a
Really
good.
nice. Yeah, really, really nice. It's
Nice little
interesting.
bow on the end of that, just a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah.
So interesting how we start over here and we end up way over here. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't put any. platitudes here or anything like that at the moment. Um, let's see. Maybe that's all I can say. Oh, and hopefully we'll see each other soon, maybe privately as well, just
Yeah.
so we can share again.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Off camera. We can
Yeah.
both let her rip and we can say the
Yeah.
things that we really want to say.
Do the crazy
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, everyone at home, thank you. Thanks for if anyone did join in, thanks for joining in. It was interesting for me. I really loved that quite a lot. And thanks, Kristy, for joining me. And hey, just stay on the line, okay? I'll I'll end this live stream and we can just have a quick yarn
Yeah.
before I go. But thanks everyone, and thanks Kristy very much for your time and your heart and your openness and hopefully you don't have any repercussions of being a little Trump supporter tucked away somewhere within you. Hopefully,
Oh gosh.
we will make sure that we don't send this to your parents or your friends or
Oh my God. Yeah,
anything
that's
like
not too
that. We
bad.
just won't share it.
That
Okay.
sounds good.
So
Yeah, thanks so much. This was really good. Yeah.
yeah, thanks very much. See you later, everyone.